My sister dumped her kids on my doorstep and told me she would take them back when they turned 18. Now she is about to learn what consequences really look like. It happened last Friday. I was working from home, sitting at my desk with spreadsheets open, trying to get through the end of the week, when my doorbell started ringing like someone was leaning on it. Not once, not twice, just frantic, non-stop ringing. I got up, annoyed and confused, and when I opened the door, there was my sister, Vanessa, standing on my porch with her 2 children. Mia was 3, Leo had just turned 2. Both of them had tiny little suitcases beside them. Before I could even ask what was happening, Vanessa was already turning around and walking back toward her car. I said, "Vanessa, what is going on?" She looked back at me like this was the most normal thing in the world and said, "Oh good, you are home." Then she started explaining her plan. She said she had been thinking. I was 34, single, with no kids, and I had a big house all to myself. Mia and Leo needed stability, and according to her, I needed purpose in my life. Then she said, "I'll pick them up when Mia turns 18. For a second, I honestly thought I had misheard her. I stood there staring at her, waiting for her to laugh or say she was kidding. But she kept talking. She told me she had already told the kids I was their new daddy. She said their stuff was packed. Bedtime was 8. Leo still needed pull-ups at night. Mia would not eat vegetables unless they were mixed into macaroni and cheese. I could not even speak. Then Vanessa sighed, like I was the difficult one, and said, "Look, I know this is sudden, but I'm doing you a favor here. You always complain about being single and not having a family of your own. Now you get to experience fatherhood without having to find a woman first. You should be thanking me." Then she said the thing that made my brain stop. She said she needed to focus on her music career without distractions. She said kids did not belong in a recording studio environment. She said I had a stable accounting job and all that free time after 5, so it was perfect. I finally managed to say, "Vanessa, you cannot just leave your children here." She was already getting into her car. She said, "Sure I can. You are their uncle. Who else would take them? Mom and Dad are too old. Besides, you owe me for letting you stay with me that summer after college." That was 10 years ago, and I had paid her rent that entire summer. Then she drove away. She actually drove away while I stood there on my porch with 2 crying toddlers and 2 little suitcases. I brought Mia and Leo inside, because what else was I supposed to do? Leave them outside on the porch? They were terrified. They kept asking for mommy. Mia's face was blotchy from crying, and Leo kept dragging his suitcase behind him like he thought if he held onto it hard enough, everything would make sense again. I gave them juice boxes. I put cartoons on the television. I tried to make my living room feel less scary while I called Vanessa. She did not answer. I called again. Nothing. I called 15 times. Nothing. I texted her and told her she needed to come back immediately. She finally texted back. "Stop being selfish. Those kids need you." I stood in the middle of my living room reading that message over and over while Mia cried on my couch and Leo wandered around pulling things off shelves. I did not know what to do. I could not wrap my head around calling the police on my own sister. My parents lived 3 states away, and my mom had health problems. I had no kids. I had no baby gates, no toddler beds, no diapers, no real idea what either of them needed besides food, safety, and someone who was not abandoning them. The kids were already destroying my living room. Leo peed on my couch. Mia kept asking when mommy was coming back. That was when something inside me went very calm. Not peaceful. Calm in the way you get when you stop panicking and start making decisions. Vanessa lived in a converted garage apartment behind her friend's house about 20 minutes away. She paid almost nothing for it because she was supposed to help with maintenance, but mostly she just played guitar all day and posted videos that almost nobody watched. Her husband, Owen, had left her 6 months earlier because he was exhausted from supporting all 3 of them, while Vanessa chased her passion. He moved back in with his parents in Ohio. But here was something Vanessa did not know. Owen and I still talked. He had been telling me for months that Vanessa kept begging him to come back. She kept promising she would change. She said she would get a real job. She said she would be responsible. She said she missed him and wanted their family back. Owen had been thinking about giving her another chance because he missed Mia and Leo so much. So while Mia and Leo sat at my coffee table eating goldfish crackers, I called Owen. When he answered, I told him exactly what Vanessa had just done. He went silent for a long time. Then he said, very quietly, "She did what?" I explained everything. I told him how Vanessa had shown up with suitcases. I told him she said I needed purpose. I told him she said she would take them back when Mia turned 18. I told him she drove away so she could focus on her music. Owen was furious. He told me he had been killing himself working double shifts because he thought maybe Vanessa was finally growing up. He had been considering going back because he thought the kids needed both parents. And while he was trying to figure out how to forgive her, she had dumped those same kids on me like unwanted furniture. Then he said something that made me smile for the first time that day. He said, "Bring them here. Bring all their stuff too." Owen's parents were loaded. Not comfortable, loaded. They owned 3 businesses and had been begging Owen to move back home permanently. Apparently, they had already set up rooms for Mia and Leo in case Owen ever went for custody. So I packed both kids into my car with their little suitcases. Vanessa had not even packed them properly. There were random mismatched clothes thrown into the bags, hardly enough for more than a couple of days. No careful packing, no real planning. Just proof that she wanted them out of her way. The drive to Ohio took 6 hours. I had to stop 4 times for bathroom breaks and snacks. Leo threw up twice. Mia cried for mommy for the first 3 hours. By the time we pulled into Owen's parents' driveway, I felt like I had aged 10 years. Owen was waiting outside with his parents. The second the car stopped, Owen came toward us. Mia saw him and started reaching for him. Leo recognized him too, and began crying in a different way. Not scared anymore, just overwhelmed. Owen's father, Walt, scooped Leo into his arms. Owen's mother, Carol, picked up Mia. The kids clung to them like they had been waiting for someone safe. Owen looked at me over the roof of the car and said, "Vanessa is about to learn what consequences are." Walt and Carol brought everyone inside. Their house was huge, bigger than I expected. The living room had soft couches, warm lamps, and toys already set up in one corner like they had been hoping the kids would arrive any day. Carol took Leo straight to the kitchen for milk. Walt carried Mia upstairs to show her the room they had prepared for her. I just stood there with my overnight bag in my hand, so tired I felt like I might fall over. The drive had been brutal. My head would not stop replaying. Vanessa walking away from the porch, Vanessa getting into her car, Vanessa saying I should thank her. Owen touched my arm and told me to sit down. He brought me water. For a few minutes, we just sat in the living room while his parents handled the kids. I could hear Mia upstairs talking about a big bed. Walt's voice was gentle with her. Leo was in the kitchen with Carol, and for the first time since Vanessa left my house, he was not crying. After about 20 minutes, both kids were in pajamas. Carol read them a story upstairs, and they fell asleep fast. Too fast, almost. Like their little bodies had been waiting for a safe place to finally shut down. Owen and I went back downstairs and sat at the kitchen table. He made tea even though neither of us really drank tea. We were both too wired to sleep. He told me he had been thinking about going for custody for months. Vanessa kept promising she would get herself together, and he kept believing her because he wanted the kids to have their mother. But she never changed. She would get a job and quit after 2 weeks. She would promise to help more with Mia and Leo, then spend all day recording guitar videos. He had supported all 3 of them for almost 2 years before he finally left. He moved back to Ohio 6 months earlier, and being away from Mia and Leo had been killing him. His parents had been telling him to fight for them, but he felt guilty. He wondered if he was being selfish for wanting custody when the kids were with their mother. I told him what Vanessa did was not normal. Normal parents do not drop toddlers on someone's doorstep and drive away. Owen got emotional. He said he knew that, but some part of him had kept hoping Vanessa would wake up and realize what she had. Now he was done hoping. He told me his parents had already spoken to a lawyer a few weeks earlier, just in case. They knew something like this was coming. Maybe not exactly this, but something. We talked until almost 3 in the morning. Then I went to the guest room and passed out. The next morning, I woke up to voices downstairs and the smell of food cooking. I checked my phone. It was almost 9. I never sleep that late. When I went downstairs, Carol was making a huge breakfast. Eggs, bacon, pancakes, cut up fruit in little bowls. The kids were already sitting at the table in their chairs. Mia had pancakes on her plate, and I could see green mixed into the batter. I asked Carol what it was. She said, "Spinach pancakes. I blend spinach into the batter and add a little honey." Mia was eating them without any fight. Leo had scrambled eggs with cheese and tiny pieces of broccoli mixed in, and he was shoveling it into his mouth. I sat down, and Carol gave me a plate. Owen came in from the backyard, where he had been on the phone. He sat beside me, and we all ate together. The kids were calm. They were not whining. They were not throwing food. They were not hitting each other. Mia asked if they could play outside after breakfast, and Carol said yes. Leo drank his milk without spilling it everywhere. I watched them, and something clicked in my head. They had always seemed stressed at Vanessa's place, always on edge, always too loud or too tired or too clingy. I had assumed that was just how toddlers were because I did not have children. But here, they were different. Relaxed. Safe. Owen saw me watching them, and he knew exactly what I was thinking. After breakfast, Walt came in from his home office with coffee. He sat down and asked me about the drive. I told him it was long, but fine. Then he said he wanted to help. He told Owen he would pay for whatever lawyer he needed. He said he had wanted to do this for months. Owen had been waiting to see if Vanessa would step up on her own, but Walt said that ship had sailed. He said any woman who abandoned her children like that did not deserve them. I agreed. Walt made a phone call right there at the table and set up a meeting with a family lawyer for Monday. Everything was moving fast. Later that morning, I knew I had to call Vanessa. I had been avoiding it, but she needed to know where her children were. I went outside onto the back porch and dialed her number. She answered on the first ring. I told her the kids were with Owen in Ohio. She lost her mind. She started screaming through the phone that I had kidnapped her children. I tried to explain that I had taken them to their father, who actually wanted them, but she would not listen. She said I had no right to take them out of state. She said she was calling the police. She said I was going to jail for kidnapping. I told her she was the one who abandoned them on my doorstep. She said that was not what happened. She said she had only asked me to watch them for a little while. I asked her how long a little while was. She did not answer. I reminded her she had said she would take them back when Mia turned 18. Vanessa said 15 years was not the point. She kept saying I had stolen her kids and that she was going to make me pay. Owen must have heard her yelling because he came outside. I was shaking. I was so angry I could barely hold the phone. Owen took it from me. He told Vanessa exactly what he thought of her. He said she had dumped 2 toddlers on her brother's porch and driven away. He said he had been working double shifts and considering reconciliation because he thought she might finally be growing up, and then she did this. Vanessa's voice changed. Suddenly, she was not screaming anymore. Suddenly, she was trying to backtrack. She said it was temporary. She said she only needed a few days to focus on her music. Owen told her he was not stupid. He told her he knew about the text. He knew she had told me to stop being selfish. He knew she had said she would take the kids back when Mia turned 18. Vanessa started stammering. She said that was a joke. No one believed her. Owen told her the kids were staying with him, and if she had a problem with that, she could take it up with his lawyer. Then he hung up. We thought that might be the end of it for the day. 2 hours later, there was a knock at the door. Walt answered it. 2 police officers were standing outside. Vanessa had actually called the cops. The officers asked to speak with Owen. He invited them in and explained everything. He told them about Vanessa showing up at my house on Friday and leaving the kids there. He showed them the text messages between me and Vanessa. One officer read the text where Vanessa said she would pick them up when Mia turned 18. He looked at his partner and shook his head. They asked where the kids were. Owen said they were upstairs napping. The officers said this was a civil custody matter, and they could not remove the kids from their father's house. One of them asked for Vanessa's number and called her right there from the living room. I could hear Vanessa's voice getting loud on the other end. The officer told her she should be ashamed of herself for abandoning her children like that. He said she could not dump her children somewhere and expect everyone else to play along. He told her that if she wanted custody, she needed to go through the courts like everyone else. Then he hung up. Before leaving, the officers told Owen to document everything and get a lawyer. After they left, we all just stood there. Carol made more tea because nobody knew what else to do. Sunday passed in a blur. The kids played in the backyard. Owen took them to a nearby park. I helped Carol with laundry, folding tiny shirts and pants while wondering how my life had turned into this in less than 48 hours. It felt normal and unreal at the same time. Monday morning came, and I had to drive home. I had work. I had already missed Friday. Owen hugged me at the door and thanked me for bringing the kids to him. Mia and Leo waved goodbye from the window. The drive back took 6 hours, and I had too much time to think. I was furious with Vanessa. She had put me in an impossible position. She had disrupted my entire life. She had terrified her own children. And for what? So she could play guitar without distractions. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt. At one point, I stopped for gas and coffee and just sat in the parking lot staring at my phone. Vanessa had left 15 missed calls. I did not listen to the voicemails. I got home late Monday afternoon and went straight to bed. Tuesday morning, I dragged myself to work. I sat at my desk with spreadsheets open, but I could not focus. The numbers blurred together. Around 10, my boss stopped by and asked if I was okay. I must have looked terrible. I ended up telling him the whole story. He stared at me with his mouth open. He asked if I was serious. I showed him some of Vanessa's texts. He said he had never heard of anyone doing something like that. He told me to take the rest of the day off if I needed to. I said I was fine. I was not fine. I kept checking my phone for updates from Owen. Around noon, Owen texted me. He was taking the kids to a pediatrician because he did not think they had been getting proper checkups. I asked what he meant. He said he had looked through the papers Vanessa packed, and there was no record of any doctor visit in over a year. A few hours later, he texted again. Leo needed 3 shots he was overdue for. Mia had a cavity that had been sitting untreated for months. Owen was scheduling a dentist appointment for the next week. I felt sick reading that. Vanessa had not even handled basic medical care. What else had she not been doing? I asked if the kids were okay. Owen said they were okay now, but the doctor was concerned about neglect. He was documenting everything for the lawyer. Vanessa kept calling and texting me. Her messages swung wildly between rage and self-pity. One message said, I had better bring her kids back right now. The next said she had only needed a break, and everyone was overreacting. Another said I had ruined her life. Then another said she was sorry and asked if I would please just talk to her. I read them, but I stopped responding. Every conversation with Vanessa went in circles. She never took responsibility. It was always someone else's fault. I blocked her number on Wednesday night after she called 17 times in a row. Owen said she was doing the same thing to him, but he had blocked her days earlier. His lawyer told him not to engage at all. Everything needed to go through legal channels now. The kids were safe. That was what mattered. Vanessa made her choice when she drove away from my house. Now she had to live with it. Thursday morning, I woke up to a text from Owen saying his parents had hired a lawyer named Margot Vance. She handled custody cases. I was making coffee when Owen called and put me on speaker so I could hear what Margot was telling them. Margot talked fast and directly. She said Vanessa could not legally just give away her parental rights like that. She said what Vanessa did could be considered child abandonment under Ohio law. She was already drafting paperwork for emergency temporary custody. Owen's parents were with him, and I could hear Carol asking questions about timelines and documentation. Margot told them to save everything. Every text message, every missed call, every piece of evidence showing Vanessa's pattern of neglect. I told them about the medical records Owen had found, the missed shots, and the untreated cavity. Margot said, "Perfect. Document everything." The call ended, and I stood in my kitchen with my coffee going cold. This was really happening. Vanessa was about to face actual legal consequences. 2 days later, I was working from home again when my phone rang. It was my mom. I almost did not answer, because I knew Vanessa had gotten to her first. My mom started talking before I could even say hello. She was upset with me for interfering in Vanessa's life. She thought I should have just kept the kids at my house like Vanessa wanted. She said family helped family, and I was making everything worse by getting Owen involved. I let her talk for a minute. Then I cut her off. I explained that Vanessa had not asked me to babysit. She had abandoned her children on my doorstep and driven away. She had told me she would pick them up when Mia turned 18. She had left them crying and scared. Then she ignored my calls. My mom went quiet. I kept going. I told her about the medical neglect, the missed vaccines, Mia's untreated cavity. I told her Vanessa was not asking for help. Vanessa was dumping responsibility because she wanted to focus on her music career. My mom did not say anything for a long time. Then she admitted she knew Vanessa was struggling, but she had not realized it was that bad. She thought Vanessa was overwhelmed and needed a break. I told her this was not a break. It was abandonment. Then my dad got on the phone. He was calmer than Mom, but firmer. He said Vanessa had always been irresponsible, but this crossed a line. He remembered all the times she quit jobs or bailed on commitments. He said he wished he and Mom could help more, but with Mom's health issues, they could not take on 2 toddlers. I told him I understood. I also told him Owen was doing an amazing job. The kids were safe and happy. Dad said he was proud of me for making the hard choice and getting them somewhere stable. After we hung up, I felt exhausted. My own parents had almost taken Vanessa's side. They had almost believed her version, where I was the villain. That afternoon, Owen sent me videos. The first one showed Mia on a huge swing set in the backyard, laughing and kicking her legs. The second showed Leo chasing bubbles that Walt was blowing. He was giggling and stumbling around, trying to catch them. Both kids looked happier than I had ever seen them at Vanessa's apartment. Their faces were relaxed. They were not scared. They were not tense. I watched the videos 3 times. This was what a normal childhood was supposed to look like. This was what they had deserved all along. The following Wednesday, Owen texted me that Child Welfare Services had contacted him. Vanessa had filed a complaint, claiming he kidnapped her kids. Owen had to explain the entire situation to a caseworker named Elliot Shaw. He was nervous, but Margot told him to be completely honest about everything. The next day, Elliot came to evaluate Owen's living situation. Owen texted updates throughout the visit. Elliot interviewed his parents. He toured the house. He saw the kids' rooms. He watched Owen interact with Mia and Leo. He asked about Vanessa's history, and Owen told him everything. He told Elliot about the months he supported everyone while Vanessa played guitar. He told him about the times Vanessa forgot to feed the kids. He told him how she got annoyed whenever Mia or Leo interrupted her recording sessions. Elliot took notes on everything. Owen said he seemed professional but not cold, like he had seen cases like this before and knew what real neglect looked like. At the end of the visit, Elliot told Owen the kids were clearly in a stable and safe environment. He said he would include that in his report. 2 days later, Vanessa showed up at Owen's parents' house. Owen called me afterward, still shaken. He said Vanessa had appeared at the front door demanding to see her kids. Walt answered. He stood on the porch and told Vanessa she could see them with supervision. Vanessa tried to push past him, but Walt is a big guy, and he did not move. Vanessa started yelling about her rights as a mother. Walt told her she had damaged those rights when she abandoned them. Vanessa backed down, but she kept shouting from the driveway. The neighbors came outside to see what was happening. Eventually, she left, but not before screaming that she would get her kids back, and everyone would be sorry. A supervised visit was scheduled for the following Monday. Margot arranged for it to happen in Owen's parents' living room, with everyone present. Owen texted me before it started and said he was dreading it. Afterward, he called me and told me everything. Vanessa showed up 15 minutes late. She walked in and tried to hug the kids, but they stayed close to Owen. Mia looked at her and asked why she had left them. Vanessa did not have a good answer. She mumbled something about needing to work on her music and said Mia and Leo would understand when they were older. Leo started playing with blocks and barely looked at her. Vanessa tried to engage with them, but they were not interested. She asked Mia about her day, and Mia gave one-word answers. She tried to show Leo a video on her phone, but Leo wandered away. The whole visit was awkward and tense. After 20 minutes, Vanessa got frustrated. The kids were more interested in playing with Owen than talking to her. She stood up and said she was leaving. She accused everyone of turning her children against her. She said they were poisoning Mia and Leo's minds. Walt told her the kids were not against her. They just felt safe without her. Vanessa left angry, slamming the door behind her. Owen said the kids barely reacted. Mia went back to her coloring book. Leo asked for a snack. It was like Vanessa had been some stranger who stopped by, not their mother. Owen sounded sad about it, but also relieved. He said it proved what everyone already knew. Vanessa could not handle being a parent when parenting required actual effort and attention. She wanted kids who adored her without having to do any of the work. The next morning, Margot called Owen and told him they needed to move quickly on emergency custody. She explained that what Vanessa did counted as child abandonment and could be used to get temporary custody right away while the full case moved through court. Owen put her on speaker so I could hear too. Margot said she would file the paperwork that afternoon, and they should have a hearing date within 2 weeks. She needed statements from both of us about what happened that Friday, along with documentation of everything that had happened since. Owen already had records from the pediatrician showing the missed vaccines and untreated cavity. Margot sounded confident when she said, "This is one of the clearest cases I have handled. A parent cannot drop children off and disappear for weeks." I drove home and returned to my normal work routine, but nothing felt normal. I checked my phone constantly for updates from Owen and Margot. 3 days later, Owen texted me that Vanessa had hired a lawyer. It was some guy her friend knew who handled general practice cases. Her lawyer had already sent Margot a letter, claiming the whole thing was a big misunderstanding. According to him, Vanessa had only been asking her brother for temporary help with childcare, and everyone had overreacted. The letter said Vanessa never intended to abandon her children and had been trying to work out a reasonable arrangement. I actually laughed when Owen sent me a photo of it. Vanessa had told me she would pick them up when Mia turned 18. That was not asking for help. That was dumping her kids and walking away. Margot responded to Vanessa's lawyer with copies of my texts from that day, screenshots of Vanessa telling me to stop being selfish, and a detailed timeline of everything that happened. She also included the pediatrician's report and Owen's statement about supporting the family, while Vanessa focused on guitar videos. Vanessa's lawyer went quiet after that. A week after I got home, Elliot called me to set up a time for my official statement. He came to my house on a Tuesday evening after work and sat at my kitchen table with a recorder and a notepad. He asked me to describe exactly what happened that Friday, starting from the moment I heard the doorbell. I told him everything. I told him Vanessa showed up with the kids and their little suitcases. I told him she was already walking back toward her car before I even understood what was happening. I told him she said I needed purpose in my life and that she would pick them up when Mia turned 18. Elliot did not interrupt. He just took notes and nodded. I described how Vanessa said kids did not belong in a recording studio environment. I told him she said she needed to focus on her music career. I told him she brought up me staying with her 10 years ago like it meant I owed her. I told him she drove away while her children cried on my porch. Elliot's expression grew more serious as I talked. He asked specific questions about what Vanessa said, word for word. He asked if she seemed impaired or if it seemed like she was having a mental health crisis. I told him no. Vanessa had seemed completely normal, just selfish. She was calm and matter-of-fact about leaving her kids, like she had made a decision and expected everyone else to accept it. Elliot asked about my relationship with Vanessa before all this happened. I explained that we had never been especially close, but we got along okay. I saw her and the kids maybe once a month. I knew Owen had left, but I had no idea things were this bad. The statement took about 90 minutes. At the end, Elliot told me it would become part of the evidence for the custody case. He said my account matched what Owen had told him and matched the documentation they already had. 2 weeks after Margot filed the paperwork, the emergency custody hearing happened. I took 2 days off work and drove back to Ohio. The hearing was in family court on a Thursday morning. Owen was nervous. His parents were there to support him. Margot met us outside the courtroom and explained what would happen. The judge would hear from both sides, review the evidence, and decide on temporary custody until the full case could be heard. Vanessa showed up 15 minutes late with her lawyer. She was wearing jeans and a wrinkled flannel shirt. Her lawyer already looked annoyed. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. There was the judge's bench, a table for each side, and a few rows of seats. The judge was a man in his 50s who looked tired before anyone even started speaking. Margot presented our case first. She walked the judge through everything, starting with Vanessa showing up at my door. She entered my statement as evidence, along with the text messages and photos of the kids' suitcases. She presented the pediatrician's report showing medical neglect. She had Owen's account of the months he supported the family, while Vanessa avoided responsibility. She had Elliot's evaluation report showing the kids were now in a safe and stable environment. Vanessa's lawyer argued that Vanessa had been overwhelmed and made a poor decision during a moment of stress. He claimed she regretted it immediately and had been trying to work out an arrangement. Margot asked why Vanessa had not come back for her kids that same day if she regretted it. She asked why Vanessa had not answered my 15 phone calls. She asked why Vanessa had texted me to stop being selfish instead of returning to get her children. Vanessa's lawyer did not have good answers. Then I had to testify. Margot asked me to describe what happened, and I told the judge the same thing I had told Elliot. The judge asked me directly if Vanessa had said she would pick up the kids when Mia turned 18. I said yes. Those were her exact words. He asked if she seemed to be joking or exaggerating. I said no. She had been completely serious. She had their things packed. She drove away. The judge looked at Vanessa and asked if she wanted to testify. Her lawyer advised her not to. Vanessa insisted. She got up there and immediately started making excuses. She talked about the stress of being a single mother and trying to build her music career. She said she thought I would be happy to help since I was always complaining about being lonely. The judge cut her off and asked if she had told me I needed purpose in my life. Vanessa admitted she had said something like that. He asked if she told me she would pick up her children when Mia turned 18. Vanessa tried to claim she was being dramatic and did not mean it literally. The judge did not look convinced. He asked why she had not come back that same day. Vanessa said she thought I would call her when I calmed down and then we could talk reasonably. The judge asked why she had not answered my 15 phone calls. Vanessa had no answer. The hearing lasted about 2 hours. At the end, the judge granted Owen temporary custody immediately. He said Vanessa's actions constituted child abandonment, and the children's welfare required them to remain in their current stable environment. Vanessa sat there looking shocked, like she truly had not believed consequences would ever arrive. Her lawyer tried to argue for immediate visitation rights. The judge shut it down. He ordered supervised visits only until a full evaluation could be completed. He wanted reports from a court monitor about Vanessa's interactions with the children. He set the full custody hearing 3 months out. Vanessa's face turned red, and she started to stand up, but her lawyer pulled her back down. After the judge left, Vanessa cornered me in the parking lot. She was furious. She asked why I was doing this to her. I told her, I am not doing anything. You did this to yourself when you dumped your kids and drove away. She said I was ruining her life over one mistake. I told her abandoning your children was not a mistake. It was a choice. She started yelling that I was a terrible brother and that I had always been jealous of her. Walt stepped between us and told Vanessa to leave. She stormed off to her car, still yelling. I was shaking, but I was also relieved. My relationship with Vanessa was completely destroyed after that. She sent me angry texts all weekend, calling me a traitor. She said I had ruined her life and turned everyone against her. She said I would regret this when she got her kids back and cut me out of their lives forever. I read the first few messages. Then I blocked her number again. I was done with the manipulation. I was done with the blame shifting. She had chance after chance to be a decent mother, and every single time, she chose her music career over her children. 3 weeks after the custody hearing, Owen called me one evening, sounding emotional. He told me the kids had started calling him Papa. It had happened naturally. Mia said it first while Owen was putting her to bed. Then Leo copied her the next morning. Owen got choked up while telling me. He said his parents were incredible grandparents. They took the kids to the park every afternoon when the weather was nice. They read bedtime stories every night. They had turned one of the spare bedrooms into a playroom with toys, books, and art supplies. The kids had a routine now. Regular meals, regular bedtimes, no chaos, no fear. I visited Ohio again 4 weeks after the custody hearing, and I was amazed by how much Mia and Leo had changed. They were calmer. They were sleeping through the night. Mia did not cry for Vanessa anymore. Leo was talking more and using full sentences. Owen had enrolled them in a good daycare program. Mia's teacher told Owen she was thriving. She was making friends, learning letters, and learning numbers. The teacher said she had never seen a child adjust so well to a new environment. Leo was doing great too. He played with other kids and followed directions. When I was there that weekend, the kids were happy and relaxed. They showed me their rooms and toys. Mia drew me a picture of her family. It was Owen, her grandparents, Leo, and herself. Vanessa was not in it. Meanwhile, Vanessa's supervised visits were not going well. Owen told me the court monitor had been sending reports to the judge. Vanessa showed up 30 minutes late to the first visit. During the second visit, she spent most of the time on her phone scrolling social media. At the third visit, she got irritated when Leo did not want to sit on her lap. The monitor noted that Vanessa seemed more interested in the children performing affection than actually connecting with them. Vanessa would ask if they missed her, then get upset when they did not say yes. She tried to get them to say they wanted to come home, but they just stared at her. Mia told the monitor she liked living with Papa Owen now. Vanessa got mad and said Owen was not their real parent. Mia started crying, and the visit had to end early. The court monitor wrote that Vanessa showed poor emotional regulation and did not prioritize the children's comfort over her own needs. A week later, Elliot finished his full evaluation and sent the report to the court. Owen forwarded me a copy. I read all 15 pages in one sitting. It was brutal. Elliot documented the medical neglect. Leo had been 6 months overdue on vaccines. Mia had an untreated cavity that required emergency dental work. He wrote about Vanessa's converted garage apartment, a one-bedroom space for 3 people with a kitchen that barely functioned. He included notes from the supervised visits showing Vanessa's lack of parenting skills. She did not know what foods the children liked. She did not know their bedtime routine. The worst part was the section about Vanessa's priorities. Elliot wrote that Vanessa consistently placed her music career ahead of her children's basic needs and showed no understanding of why that was harmful. The report concluded that Vanessa was currently unfit to provide adequate care. It recommended that Owen retain custody, with Vanessa receiving only supervised visits until she demonstrated sustained behavioral change for at least 6 months. I read the report twice. Then I forwarded it to my parents with a message saying they needed to see what their daughter had actually done. My mom called 3 hours later. She was crying. She apologized for initially taking Vanessa's side. She said she had no idea things were this bad. She admitted she knew Vanessa was struggling, but she thought Vanessa just needed help with childcare, not that she was completely neglecting the kids. Then my dad got on the phone. He sounded angry in a way I had never heard before. He told me he was ashamed of Vanessa. He offered to testify in court about Vanessa's long history of avoiding responsibility if it would help Owen's case. He brought up things from years ago, how Vanessa quit every job after a few months, how she borrowed money from them constantly and never paid it back, how she always had an excuse for why nothing was ever her fault. My mom said she was going to call Owen directly to apologize and ask what she could do to help. 2 days later, Owen told me my mom had called. They talked for over an hour. My mom apologized for doubting him and said she supported Owen getting full custody. She even offered to visit Ohio to see the kids in their new home. Owen agreed. Meanwhile, Vanessa's lawyer contacted Margot trying to work out a deal. He suggested that if Vanessa completed a 12-week parenting class and went to therapy, she should get the kids back with a transition plan. Margot called Owen to discuss it, and Owen put her on speaker so I could hear. Margot actually laughed when she explained the offer. She said, "Absolutely not. These children are not bargaining chips." She told Owen that Vanessa's lawyer was trying to avoid a full custody battle because he knew Vanessa's case was terrible. Margot said Vanessa needed to prove sustained change over time, not just check boxes on a list. Even then, she would have to start with supervised visits and work her way up over months or years. Owen agreed immediately. He told Margot to reject the offer. Vanessa's lawyer tried to negotiate again. Margot shut it down completely. 4 weeks after Vanessa dumped the kids on my doorstep, she made her biggest mistake yet. She posted on Facebook. It was a long, rambling post about how her family had betrayed her and kept her from her children. She wrote that she was a good mother who only needed temporary help and everyone had turned against her. She claimed I had kidnapped her kids and taken them to another state. She claimed Owen was poisoning them against her. She claimed our parents would not even answer her calls. She said she was being denied her rights as a mother and asked people for support. Within an hour, several of her friends were commenting with sympathy and saying how awful we all were. Then Owen saw the post. He had had enough. He screenshotted Vanessa's entire text history with him, including the messages where she begged him to come back while complaining about having to watch her own kids. He screenshotted her Venmo requests, where she asked him for money for guitar equipment while the kids needed clothes. Then he posted the full story with receipts. He explained exactly what Vanessa had done. He explained that she had literally abandoned her children to focus on her music. He included photos of the kids' medical records showing neglect. The comments shifted immediately. People started asking Vanessa what kind of mother abandoned toddlers on someone's doorstep. Friends from high school commented asking if it was true. Someone who used to work with her said she was not surprised because Vanessa had always blamed everyone else for her problems. More people piled on with their own stories about Vanessa being unreliable and selfish. Vanessa deleted her original post within 3 hours, but it was too late. People had already screenshotted everything, and the images were spreading through mutual friends. I started getting Facebook messages from people I went to high school with. They asked if the story about Vanessa was true. I confirmed every detail. Then they started sharing their own stories. Holly Trent told me Vanessa had borrowed $200 from her 7 years earlier and never paid it back. Devin Pryor said Vanessa was supposed to be his roommate in college, but she bailed 1 week before move-in and left him scrambling to find someone else. Travis Bone said Vanessa had hit on him at a party while she was married to Owen. The messages kept coming, and I realized Vanessa had been like this her entire adult life. She was always the person who took and never gave. The person who made promises and did not keep them. The person who expected everyone else to fix whatever mess she created. Reading those messages made me feel validated. It confirmed I had done the right thing. The supervised visits were supposed to happen every Saturday afternoon at a neutral location. After the social media disaster, Vanessa showed up to the first one 40 minutes late. The court monitor documented it. At the second visit, she spent most of the time scrolling through her phone while Mia tried to show her a drawing. At the third visit, Vanessa did not show up at all. She texted the monitor and said the time did not work with her recording schedule. The monitor documented that as another example of Vanessa prioritizing music over her children. After that, Vanessa just stopped coming. The monitor tried to reschedule, but Vanessa said weekends were her prime creative time, and she could not interrupt her process. All of it went into official reports that would be presented to the judge. 2 months after everything started, Owen and his parents drove to my house for a weekend visit. I was standing on my front porch when their car pulled up. Mia jumped out first, running toward me with a new purple backpack. She was so excited to show me all the pockets and zippers. Leo followed and wrapped his arms around my legs. They looked completely different from the scared, crying toddlers I had driven to Ohio. They were relaxed, happy, talking nonstop about their preschool, their friends, and the playground near Owen's house. Owen looked different too, less stressed, more confident. Carol and Walt unloaded bags from the car, and Carol hugged me, thanking me again for making the call that started everything. We spent Saturday at the playground near my house. Mia went down the slide about 50 times. Leo played in the sandbox. Owen sat beside me on a bench, and we watched them play. He told me they were both sleeping through the night now and eating better. Mia's teacher said she was one of the brightest children in her class. Leo was starting to use full sentences. On Sunday, we made cookies in my kitchen. The kids stood on chairs beside the counter and helped pour ingredients. Leo got flour all over himself. Mia ate half the chocolate chips before they made it into the dough. It was messy and chaotic, but in a good way. That evening, after the kids were asleep in my guest room, Owen and I sat on my couch and drank a beer. He thanked me for making the hard choice to bring the kids to him, instead of trying to keep them myself. He said he knew it would have been easier for me to just deal with Vanessa and keep the kids local, but taking them to Ohio had given them the stable home they needed. I told him I was just glad they were okay. The next morning, they packed up to drive back to Ohio. The kids hugged me goodbye. As I watched their car pull away, I felt good about everything for the first time since Vanessa had rung my doorbell. 3 weeks later, Margot called Owen to tell him the full custody hearing was scheduled for 3 months after the original abandonment. Margot said they had mountains of evidence showing Vanessa's unfitness and Owen's excellent care. She had Elliot's evaluation. She had the court monitor's reports. She had the medical records. She had the supervised visit documentation. She had statements from multiple people about Vanessa's pattern of irresponsibility. Margot told Owen to prepare for testimony about the months with Vanessa and the months since the kids had come to live with him. They scheduled several prep sessions to go over everything. Owen sounded nervous when he told me, but I reminded him that every fact was on his side. The hearing date arrived 3 weeks later. I drove back to Ohio the night before. Owen's parents put me in their guest room, and we stayed up late going over everything one more time. Owen was nervous, but he was ready. Margot had prepared him well. The next morning, we drove to the courthouse together. Owen's parents were dressed nicely. They both hugged him before we went inside. The courtroom had wood paneling and fluorescent lights that made everything look washed out. We sat at one table with Margot and waited for Vanessa. She walked in 20 minutes late wearing a wrinkled flannel shirt that looked like she had slept in it. Her lawyer was an older man in a cheap suit who kept shuffling papers like he did not know where anything was. The same judge from the temporary hearing was presiding, the man in his 50s with reading glasses on a chain. He already looked annoyed. Vanessa's lawyer stood first and started talking about Vanessa's mental health. He said Vanessa had been going through a crisis when she left the children. He said she needed therapy, not punishment. He used phrases like undiagnosed anxiety and overwhelming stress, trying to make Vanessa sound like the victim. The judge listened without expression. Then he asked Vanessa's lawyer if he had documentation of this mental health crisis. The lawyer admitted there were no medical records because Vanessa had not actually seen a doctor. The judge wrote something down, and his mouth tightened. Then it was my turn to testify. I walked to the witness stand, put my hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Margot asked me to describe what happened that Friday, so I told the whole story again. This time, I did not only talk about the abandonment. I also talked about how Vanessa had avoided responsibility her entire life. I told the judge about the time she quit 3 jobs in 1 year because she did not like her managers. I described how she borrowed money from our parents and never paid it back. I explained that she had been trying to be a musician for 10 years, but she had never finished recording an album or played a real paid gig. The judge began asking me questions directly. He wanted to know about Vanessa's employment history. I admitted that I did not think she had held a steady job in at least 2 years. He asked about financial support for the children. I told him Owen had paid for everything when they were together. He asked whether Vanessa took the kids to doctor appointments. I said that based on what Owen had found, it did not appear that she had. Vanessa sat at her table getting redder and redder while I spoke. Her lawyer objected a few times, but the judge overruled him. When I finished, I went back to sit with Owen, and he squeezed my hand. Then Owen took the stand. He looked scared, but his voice stayed steady. Margot asked about the months before he left Vanessa, and Owen described everything in detail. He talked about working double shifts at the warehouse while Vanessa stayed home, supposedly watching the kids. He explained that he would come home at midnight after being on his feet for 10 hours and find Mia and Leo still awake because Vanessa had been in the garage recording videos. He told the judge about finding the kids in dirty diapers because Vanessa had been too focused on mixing guitar tracks. He described the morning he found an empty fridge because Vanessa had spent the grocery money on a new microphone. Owen started getting choked up when he talked about Leo, asking why mommy did not play with them anymore. The judge handed him a tissue box and told him to take his time. Owen pulled himself together and kept going. He told the judge about Vanessa's 30 followers on her music channel. He explained how she would spend hours editing videos that got maybe 5 views. He described begging her to get a real job and Vanessa telling him he did not believe in her dreams. By the time Owen finished testifying, Vanessa looked like she wanted to disappear. The judge called a 10-minute recess. We all went into the hallway. Carol hugged Owen and told him he had done great. Then the pediatrician testified. She was a young doctor with her hair in a bun, and she had Mia and Leo's medical records with her. She pointed out the missed vaccine appointments. She showed the judge photos of Mia's untreated cavity, the one that became serious enough to need emergency dental work. She explained that Leo had been underweight for his age when Owen first brought him in. The judge asked if that level of medical neglect was common. The pediatrician said no. Most parents were much more attentive. After her, the daycare director from Vanessa's area testified. She was an older woman who looked tired, and she did not hold back. She said Vanessa was frequently late for pickup, sometimes by hours. She described one time Vanessa forgot to pick Leo up completely, and they had to call the emergency contact at 10 at night. She told the judge about days when Vanessa dropped the kids off without lunch or extra clothes. She said the staff had started keeping spare supplies just for Mia and Leo because Vanessa was so unreliable. Vanessa's lawyer tried to cross-examine her. The daycare director simply repeated the facts. Then Vanessa testified. She walked up to the stand looking defensive. Her lawyer asked easy questions, and Vanessa launched into a speech about how hard it was to be a single mom. She blamed Owen for leaving when she needed support. She said I had overreacted by taking the kids to Ohio. She claimed she only meant for them to stay with me for a few days while she got her head together. The judge interrupted her and asked directly why she told me she would pick them up when Mia turned 18. Vanessa stammered and said she was joking. The judge asked if she thought abandoning toddlers was funny. Vanessa started backtracking. She said she was stressed and did not mean it that way. The judge asked about employment. Vanessa admitted she did not have a regular job. He asked how she supported herself. She said she did odd jobs and got help from friends. He asked about her music career. Vanessa suddenly became animated, talking about her vision and her sound. The judge let her go on for a minute. Then he cut her off. He asked how many paid gigs she had done in the last year. Vanessa said none, but she was building her online presence. He asked how much money she had made from music. Vanessa admitted it was zero. He asked how she had planned to support 2 children with no income. Vanessa started saying that was why she needed them to stay with her brother, because I had a good job. The judge told her that was not how parenting worked. Vanessa got frustrated. She said everyone was against her. She said Owen had poisoned the kids against her. She blamed me for interfering. She said our parents had never supported her dreams. The judge told her to stop blaming everyone else and take responsibility for her own actions. Vanessa kept arguing. The judge warned her that he would hold her in contempt if she did not calm down. Vanessa finally shut up, but she was breathing hard and glaring at everyone. The judge called another recess. This one lasted 30 minutes. We sat in the hallway and barely talked. Walt got coffee from a vending machine for everyone. When we went back in, the judge had clearly made his decision. He went through everything point by point. He talked about the abandonment. He talked about Vanessa's lack of employment. He mentioned the medical neglect. He mentioned the daycare incidents. He discussed Vanessa's inability to take responsibility and her focus on music over her children. Then he announced his ruling. Owen was granted full legal and physical custody of both children. Vanessa could have supervised visitation, but only if she completed parenting classes and maintained steady employment for 6 months. The judge made it clear that supervised meant a professional monitor, not a family member. He set a schedule for Vanessa to prove she was making changes before she could even request more access. Before the judge finished reading the order, Vanessa stood up and stormed toward the door. Her lawyer tried to stop her, but she shoved past him and left the courtroom. Her lawyer apologized to the judge and said his client was having trouble accepting the consequences of her choices. The judge looked unimpressed. He told the lawyer to get his client under control. Then he signed the custody order and handed it to Margot. Owen started crying the second it was official. His parents hugged him. Carol was crying too. Walt shook Margot's hand and thanked her. Margot told Owen it was one of the clearest custody cases she had ever handled. She said Vanessa had made it easy by being exactly who everyone said she was. We all went out for lunch afterward. Owen could barely eat because he was so relieved. 4 months after Vanessa dumped the kids on my doorstep, I got a text from Margot with an update. Vanessa had completed exactly 1 parenting class out of the 12 she was supposed to finish. She showed up to the first session and never went back. The instructor tried calling multiple times, but Vanessa ignored every message. Even worse, Vanessa had lost her part-time job at the music store because she kept showing up late or not showing up at all. Her boss had given her 3 warnings before firing her 2 weeks earlier. Margot said this meant Vanessa was not meeting any of the judge's requirements for regaining custody or even getting unsupervised visits. She was documenting everything. I asked how Owen was handling the news. Margot said Owen was not surprised at all because this was exactly who Vanessa had always been. Then Margot said, the more Vanessa fails to step up, the stronger the case becomes for terminating her parental rights. Part of me felt sad. Vanessa was my sister, and she was throwing away her own children. But a bigger part of me was relieved because it meant Mia and Leo would stay where they were, safe and loved. The court monitor assigned to Vanessa's case tried to schedule supervised visits. She left 3 voicemails over 2 weeks. She sent 5 emails with different date and time options. Vanessa did not respond to any of them. The monitor called Margot to report that she could not fulfill her duties if Vanessa would not communicate or show up. Margot documented that continued abandonment as more evidence. She added it to a growing file showing Vanessa's complete lack of interest in her children's lives. The monitor wrote in her official report that Vanessa had made 0 effort to see her kids despite multiple opportunities. This was not a parent who wanted custody but faced obstacles. This was a parent who walked away and never looked back. Margot told me this kind of documentation made a termination case much easier because it proved the parent had voluntarily abandoned her rights. She said judges took that seriously, especially when young children were involved. I started driving to Ohio once a month to visit. The first Saturday of every month, I made the 6-hour drive and spent the weekend with Owen and the kids. Mia and Leo got so excited whenever I arrived. They ran to the door yelling that Uncle was here and jumped up and down until I picked them both up. They dragged me inside to show me new toys, drawings, and books. Leo had a collection of toy cars that he lined up on the coffee table. Mia drew pictures of the family with stick figures labeled Papa, Grandma, Grandpa, Leo. I was always included in her drawings, and it made me feel something I still cannot fully describe. We went to the park. I pushed them on the swings. We made cookies in Carol's huge kitchen, and they helped pour ingredients while getting flour everywhere. I got to be the fun uncle who showed up once a month for adventures and then went home. I got to be part of their lives without carrying the constant responsibility of parenting. It worked for everyone. 5 months after everything started, Owen enrolled the kids in an excellent preschool near his parents' house. The school had a great reputation and a waiting list, but Walt knew someone on the board and pulled a few strings. Mia went 5 mornings a week. Leo went 3 mornings. Owen sent me pictures of their first day with little backpacks and new shoes. 2 weeks later, he called to tell me how well they were doing. Mia was already learning to read simple words and could write her whole name. Leo was working on colors and shapes and could count to 10. Their teachers said both children were bright, engaged, and always participating. They also said the kids seemed surprisingly well adjusted, considering the recent upheaval in their lives. Owen told the teachers about the stable home environment and all the support from his parents. The preschool director said you can tell when children feel secure. Mia and Leo clearly felt safe and loved. Around the same time, Owen took them back to the pediatrician for a follow-up. The doctor was happy with their progress. Leo was finally caught up on all his vaccines. He had gained weight and was right where he should be for his age. Mia's dental work had healed, and she was no longer in pain. The doctor told Owen the difference in both kids after just a few months was remarkable, and that whatever he was doing, he should keep doing it. Owen called me that night and read me the visit notes. I could hear how proud he was. He said it was the first time in a long time that he did not feel like he was playing catch-up on damage someone else had caused. He had a calendar on the fridge now, with every appointment and every preschool event written in marker. He was the kind of parent who showed up early, read the forms, and asked the teachers questions. He was the exact opposite of what Mia and Leo had before. Carol told me privately that Owen had become a different man since the children came home. Lighter somehow, like he finally had his life back. My parents finally met Owen's parents during one of my monthly visits. I coordinated everything so everyone would be in Ohio the same weekend. My mom was nervous about meeting Walt and Carol because she knew they were wealthy, and she felt guilty that her daughter had caused the whole mess. But the second everyone sat together in the living room, the tension disappeared. Carol brought out coffee and homemade cookies. Walt asked my dad about work, and they discovered they both loved fishing. My mom watched Mia and Leo play, and her eyes filled with tears. She told Walt and Carol she was grateful they were giving her grandchildren the stability they needed. She apologized for Vanessa's behavior, even though it was not her fault. Carol reached over, squeezed my mom's hand, and told her the kids were loved, and that was what mattered. Walt said they were happy to be grandparents, and that family was what people made it. My dad nodded and said, Vanessa made her choice when she drove away that day. Everyone agreed the kids were better off now. By the end of the visit, my parents and Owen's parents exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. Meanwhile, messages from old friends kept trickling in after the Facebook situation. A woman who had once been in a band with Vanessa said Vanessa dropped out the night before a paid show and left everyone scrambling for a replacement. Someone else said Vanessa had crashed on their couch for a month, claimed she was between places, ate all their food, and left without saying thank you. Another guy said Vanessa borrowed his car for a weekend and brought it back with a dented bumper and an empty tank, then denied the dent was there. Every story was the same person, the one who took and never gave back. The one who always had a reason why nothing was her fault. I screenshotted a few messages and sent them to Owen, who forwarded them to Margot. Margot said character was exactly what these cases came down to. Vanessa had spent her whole life building a record without realizing it. The next time I visited, Mia showed me her room. She pointed to a photo on her dresser and said it was from their old house. Then she immediately started talking about the new swing set in the backyard. No sadness. No questions about going back. Just a simple fact. They used to live somewhere else, and now they lived here. Leo did not mention Vanessa at all anymore. He called Owen Papa and ran to Walt when he wanted to play trucks. The kids were just kids now. Not scared toddlers asking for mommy. Just kids laughing at dinner, fighting over who got the last roll, and feeling completely secure in their world. Owen told me he had been thinking about making it permanent. He wanted to go to court to terminate Vanessa's parental rights, so no one could ever rip the kids out of that house again. He said he had been waiting to see if Vanessa would show even the smallest sign of stepping up. She had given him nothing. I told him I thought it was time. 5 months in, Vanessa surfaced briefly with a text to Owen asking for money. The message said she was about to get a big break with her music and just needed cash to cover studio time for a demo. She promised to pay him back once her career took off. She did not ask about the kids. She did not ask how they were doing. She did not ask if they needed anything. The entire message was about her, her music, and what she wanted. Owen showed me the text, and I could see the anger in his eyes. He blocked her number without responding. Then he forwarded the screenshot to Margot. Margot added it to the file as further evidence of Vanessa's priorities. She pointed out that Vanessa had made no effort to see her children in 5 months, but she had no problem reaching out when she wanted money for studio time. That kind of behavior made it painfully clear where Vanessa's focus was, and it was not on being a mother. Margot said the text might actually help the case because it showed Vanessa's true character so clearly. With Margot's help, Owen began the formal process to terminate Vanessa's parental rights. They filed the paperwork based on abandonment. The petition included everything Margot had been collecting: Vanessa's failure to complete parenting classes, her refusal to respond to the court monitor, her lack of employment, her complete absence from the children's lives, the medical neglect before the abandonment. Every piece of evidence created the same picture: a woman who chose her own wants over her children's needs. Owen had to fill out pages of forms about his income, his living situation, his support system, and his plans for the kids' future. Walt and Carol provided financial statements showing they could help support the children. Character references came from the pediatrician, the preschool teachers, neighbors, and family friends. Everyone agreed this was what was best for Mia and Leo. The kids were thriving in Owen's care with his parents' support. Vanessa had shown no genuine effort to be a parent and had gone out of her way to avoid responsibility. Margot told Owen the case was as strong as any she had seen. The termination hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Margot served Vanessa with the paperwork at her garage apartment. For the first time in months, Vanessa actually responded. She called Owen, screaming that he could not take her kids away forever, that she was their mother, and nothing could change that. Owen did not argue. He simply told her she should have thought about that before she dropped them on a doorstep and drove away. Then he blocked her again. Margot told us Vanessa had hired a new lawyer for the termination hearing, a public defender type who told her she needed to show up and prove she had been making changes. The problem was simple: she had not made any. On the morning of the termination hearing, I drove back to Ohio for what felt like the last time. Owen was quiet in the car on the way to the courthouse. His parents followed behind us. We got there early and waited in the same small courtroom with the wood paneling. Vanessa showed up on time for once. She wore a blazer that she had clearly bought for the occasion. Her hair was done. Her makeup was done. It was the most put together I had seen her in years. Her new lawyer sat beside her, looking like he already knew how this was going to end. The same judge from the custody hearing presided, the man in his 50s with the glasses on a chain. Margot laid everything out one more time. The abandonment. The comment about coming back when Mia turned 18. The missed parenting classes. 11 out of 12 never completed. The job Vanessa lost. The supervised visits she stopped attending. The voicemails and emails from the monitor that she ignored for months. The money text where she asked Owen for cash for studio time and never once asked about her own children. The medical neglect. The missed vaccines. The cavity that needed emergency dental work. Margot entered the file page after page. Vanessa's lawyer stood and tried to argue that she was a changed person, that she was ready to become the mother she should have been. The judge asked him one question: how many of the court-ordered parenting classes did she complete? The lawyer said, 1. The judge asked how many supervised visits she had attended in the last 3 months. The lawyer admitted none. The judge took off his glasses and set them down. Then he looked directly at Vanessa and asked if she had anything to say. Vanessa stood up and started crying. She said she had made mistakes, but she loved her kids and deserved another chance. The judge asked where she had been for the last 5 months. She did not answer. He asked what her daughter's favorite food was. She did not know. He asked when her son's birthday was. She got the month wrong. The courtroom went completely silent. The judge put his glasses back on. He said he had seen many cases, but rarely one where a parent had so thoroughly and deliberately removed herself from her children's lives. He said the law allowed a parent every reasonable opportunity to reunify with her children, and Vanessa had been given every single one of those opportunities. She had chosen to ignore them. He said her absence spoke louder than anything she could say in court that day. Then he granted the petition. He terminated Vanessa's parental rights to both Mia and Leo, effective immediately, and cleared the way for Owen to have sole and permanent legal custody. He said the children deserved permanence and stability. They had found both. Vanessa made a sound I had never heard before, like all the air had left her body at once. She turned to her lawyer and asked what that meant. He told her quietly that it was over. Legally, she was no longer their mother. Vanessa started screaming in the courtroom. She yelled that they were her kids, that nobody could take them from her, that it was all a setup. The judge called for order and told the bailiff to escort her out. She was still yelling as they walked her into the hallway. She screamed that she would appeal. She screamed that she would fight. She screamed that everyone would be sorry. Then the doors closed behind her, and her voice faded down the corridor. Inside the courtroom, everything went quiet. The judge signed the order and handed it to Margot. Owen sat there, staring at the paper in his hands. The kids' names were on it. His name was on it. Vanessa's name had been crossed out of their lives for good. Walt put a hand on his son's shoulder. Carol wiped her eyes. Margot leaned over and told Owen it was done. No one could take them again. Out in the parking lot, Vanessa was already gone. Her car was pulling away, and I watched her taillights disappear around the corner. She had told me she would come back for them when Mia turned 18. The court made sure she never could.